Hello and welcome to the Stitch on Sunday blanket edging video. So there are many different ways of doing edging for the blanket, but the one I've chosen to go with is an I-cord edging. There is other options if you wanted to do a garter edge or moss stitch edge, even if you wanted to. You could pick up and work backwards and forwards, or you could pick right along the edge and then knit a few rows. It is entirely up to you which one you want to do, but I was going to go with I-cord, just because I didn't want a big weighty blanket on my circular needles, and also I didn't want to be flipping the blanket backwards and forwards. And the I-cord edging makes that quite an easy way to do it. So, as you can see, my blanket is sewn together. I do have one square missing because I knitted it in the wrong colour. So I need to re-knit a square. And then my blanket will be done once I've got this edging done. So, we're going to start with the wrong side. So, flip your blanket over so the wrong side is facing. I'm going to do a 3-stitch I-cord edge. You could do thicker if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you. I just wanted just a simple edging on my blanket. If you do want thicker, just cast on more stitches, 4 or 5. I'm using 3.5mm DPNs, which is the same needle that I used to knit the blanket in. And I'm going to use the cream coloured yarn, since that kind of goes through my blanket mostly. So we're going to make a slip knot, and with one of your DPNs we're going to cast on 2 more stitches, whatever method you want. So you should have 3 stitches on your needle, and then with the wrong side of the work facing, so you want to start at the opposite end of your blanket. This is my square 5 and square 1 is at the other end. So we will need 2 DPNs. We're looking for the bottom of the cast on edge. So as you can see on the right side, you've got these loops. So you want to be in above. We want the needle to go in here above. And we want this, we've got the selvage edge here and then the first stitch. Selvage edge curls around a little bit. So you'll have like an edging. You'll have a bumpy edge and then your first stitch. And we want to go in between those two for our first stitch. So it's a bit tricky the first one, but wrong side facing, get yourself in that position, okay? Get in there. Okay. And with the working yarn, not your tail, we're going to cast on a stitch. So you should have 4 stitches on your needle. Please excuse the plaster, I stabbed myself with a sock needle. So 4 stitches on your needle, and then we're going to push them to the opposite end. Get your second DPN. So with your working yarn, we're going to knit 2, bringing it across. How you do an I-cord, bring it across, don't, that's why you slid it to the end. So we knit the 2. And then we're going to knit these 2. Where's my tail there? Knit these 2 through the back loop. So 3 stitches on the needle, and then we're going to go in for our next stitch. So we're looking at the bumps here, so we want this bump. Plaster is so awkward. Okay? And then we'll repeat the process. So you push the stitches to the opposite end and we knit 2. Knit 2 through the back loop. Knit 2 together through the back loop, I should say. And pick up your next stitch. Now on the cast on and cast off edges of the blanket, you want to pick up every stitch. Repeat the process. Knit 2. Knit 2 together through the back loop. And pick up the next stitch. Slide across. And this is pretty much it. Okay. So you can see it coming along there on the front. You'd have to weave in this end, obviously. More ends to weave. But there you go. Okay, so I've worked across that first square and you can see that that is what it's going to look like. So it will need blocking. It's probably going to curl a little bit at first, so it will need to be blocked, but it will stop like your curling selvage edges and everything, and it'll look a lot nicer as an edging of your blanket. So we're going to work right across this cast on edge, so there'll be 5 squares to work across, and then I'll come back when we need to go up the side because the side is a little bit different. One thing to add, when you approach a join between your 2 squares, just pick up anything around there just to get a stitch in there. It's not a problem, just pick up a stitch in there and then you can start across your cast on edge for the next square. Okay, so you can see I now have my I-cord all the way across. My desk is quite little, so it's quite hard to spread everything out. So I've got a few stitches left. So I'm going to complete to the very last stitch of the first side. Okay, so we're at the end, we're at the corner, and we need to turn. Now, remember I said for the cast on edge, which is your first side, you will pick up every single stitch that you come across. But now we're going to go up the side, so it's a little bit different. And the corner is also a little bit different. So we're going to pick up the first stitch that we need on the side. Let's put that needle down. So we've got our selvage edge, which will curl around the corner, down a little bit, and then we have our first stitch. So we want to be picking up the stitches in between that selvage edge, and the first stitch there, okay? So we're going to be going in here to pick up a stitch. Now we're on the wrong side, so I'm going to go through the back and pick up that stitch. Now this is the corner, so this is slightly different. So we pick up the first stitch and we're going to knit 2 and knit 2 together through the back loop. Then, just to make this turn a little bit easier and better, we're going to slide and just knit the I-cord for 1 row. So we just knit the 3 stitches without picking anything up. Okay, then we're going to pick up the stitch again, but we want to go into exactly the same spot where we picked up that stitch. So we're going back into there to pick that up. So that stitch has 2 loops through it. And then just work 2 stitches and knit 2 together through the back loop. And then we've turned the corner. So now we're going to start working up the side. So you would do that on every corner. Do your corner stitch, your very edge stitch, then knit an I-cord row and then knit the same stitch again, just to give yourself a little bit of extra I-cord to go around the corner so that your corners of your blanket don't curl in, basically. So it's a little bit tricky to see on the wrong side, so look on the right side to see where you need to be. But we're going to go into every stitch along the selvage edge, like I said. So you want to miss the selvage edge, you can see there, and we want to be between the selvage edge and the first stitch. Some of them are going to be tricky because they'll have decreases next to them and everything, but it's not something that has to be absolutely perfect as long as you are hitting enough stitches close together. You don't have to be absolutely spot on with every single stitch. So we're going to knit 3 edge stitches all next to each other. So we want the next 3 stitches all next to each other. And then we miss 1. This is how we go up the sides. So we do 3, miss 1, 3, miss 1. It's got to be 3 rows out of 4 that you pick up for the edge. Otherwise, you're going to have too much I-cord and it's going to all pucker up. So 3 and miss 1. So we're going to miss that stitch there. I've got a stitch here. We're going to miss that one. And we're going to go through this one. So around the back of it. And then continue your I-cord, and that is how we're going to go up the long edge, the long side. Okay, so we've done another 3, and then we're going to skip, so we don't go into this one here. We want to skip that one and go into this next one. And that's just how you work across the side. So 3 out of 4 every time. If you're wondering about how many you've done each time, you can look on the back. And you can see that you've got 1, 2, 3 and then a gap. 1, 2, 3. So we need another gap. And just work it that way. Okay, you can see on the front as well if you pull it down a little bit. 1, 2, 3, gap, 1, 2, 3. So we need a gap. So we're not going in that one, and we're going to go in this one instead. And that is your I-cord edging. And there we go. You can see the corner doesn't curl or anything, it just goes around nicely. And yeah, there we go. So, yes, it's a long job. We've got to get around the whole blanket, but it'll be worth it in the end, and then you need to block it. And you'll have your beautiful Stitch on Sunday blanket. Thanks for watching.